Please welcome Michael Lewis. Nice to see you again.
Good to see you. Pleasure to be back.
Happy to have you here. You're one of my best explainers in the world. You're the person, if I need something explained to me, you're the person I want to have do it. Explain something to me if you don't mind.
Anything.
Okay? Stock market closed today at an all-time high, 19,216 and some change, okay? People are talking about a Trump bump. Why and what is it? Do you have any theories about that? Why?
Let's give this a shot, but this is what
people were afraid that it would dump, but there's been a bump.
Nobody knew it was going to happen, right? So one of the things my book is about, not to get to my book right away.
We're going to get to the
We'll come back to it, I know, but you just...
We'll just get to it right now. Hold on, right? It's called The Undoing Project. The Undoing Project, okay?
I wasn't trying to plug the book.
I know, I want to plug it.
But actually, one of the things it's about is the way people explain what they couldn't predict. So nobody saw this coming. Nobody saw the stock market going up 1,000 points. But the same people who didn't see it coming will tell you exactly why it was inevitable. So they can now explain it because they don't want to look like fools. The same people who are explaining why, oh yes, it was going to go up 1,000 points, if it crashed tomorrow, would have an explanation for why that was also inevitable.
Wow. So we don't really need an economic model. We need a time machine.
Which you need is not to spend much attention listening to people who are trying to explain to you why the stock market went up or down, because they don't know.
All right.
They don't know.
Well, now, explain something to me. The book, The Undoing Project.
Yes.
What was undone in The Undoing Project, and who did it? Who undid it?
So there are a couple things here. So actually, the book is about, this is a conversation stopper, 2 Israeli psychologists. And
walk into a bar.
Yeah, right. So Amos Tversky and Danny Kahneman. Kahneman won the Nobel Prize in economics, but they're both psychologists. And Amos Tversky died in 1996. But it's about their love affair. A sexual love affair, but nevertheless a love affair. And they were engaged together in exploring how the human mind worked when it was making judgments and decisions in an unemotional state. Like when people thought they were being rational, what were they doing? Now, the Undoing Project itself was the project they were working on when they split up, when the love affair busted up. There was their name for the project. And it was specifically what they were looking at the time. They're trying to kind of delineate the rules of the human imagination. And the way they were getting at it was looking at the way people undid a tragedy. Danny Kahneman, one of the characters...
Like how they dealt with the emotion of the tragedy?
They say, in a way. It starts with Danny Kahneman's nephew, who's 2 days before being released from the Israeli Air Force, flying upside down into the ground and killing him, and being killed. And Danny notices that everybody's saying, if only he had been released 2 days earlier. If only the flare hadn't gone up and blinded him. But they didn't say, if only there wasn't an Israeli Air Force. There were particular ways in which they undid the tragedy. And he thought, the way people undo tragedies might be a way to explore the way the human imagination works, how it creates other realities. So, how do you undo the most recent presidential election? You saw people doing this right after the election, people who were upset Trump was elected. If only Comey hadn't released those emails. Nobody said, nobody said, if only Trump was born a girl. That'd have done it. You know, I mean, if Trump, right?
Would have been the best, though. Would have been beautiful.
He would have been beautiful.
A 10.
Huge.
A 10.
He'd have been huge.
Huge.
Yes.
Yeah.
He'd have been huge.
Yeah. So what does that say about how we deal? Do we...
So anyway, that's the narrow answer, is they were working on this thing to try to figure out the way the human imagination created alternative realities. They never finished the work, but what they were undoing more broadly, the reason I seized upon it as a book title, is that they were undoing a false view of the human mind and human nature, that we are basically really good at judgment and decision and basically rational in our choices.
So we're not rational?
No, we're not.
Can we become rational? Or is it even that a good goal?
It's interesting. They were saying that, I think their work shows something very deep about human nature. They're essentially wired for certain kinds of fallibility, certain kinds of irrationalities. We can check ourselves. We can find ways to sort of govern our intellects, but we will make mistakes. And it's systematically, not just one-off mistakes, so that as a result, markets can make mistakes. Elections can get screwed up. They were pointing at the way the human mind leads itself astray in the same way that, say, they're optical illusions. They were describing cognitive illusions, the way people's minds...
Can computers help us make a rational decision?
Yes.
Or is that a mistake because then the robots will rise up and enslave us?
They may be gentle masters, and...
God, I hope
that's
so.
Not necessarily a dark outcome.
Michael, thank you so much for being here. The Undoing Project is in stores tomorrow. Michael Lewis, everybody. We'll be right back.